The bulbils that came off the plant, you can see they're, they have little roots, but they haven't really rooted in the ground at all, right? So the plant is telling me I'm rooting, but I haven't rooted yet. The plant's telling me, buddy, if you're gonna move me, you better move me now, right? Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and I thought I'd do a quick video here today to talk about just experimenting and playing around in your garden. So many gardeners, we think, you read a book and the book says do this, and you do what the book says. And then you read another book and the book says do that, and you do what that says. You watch a YouTube video, the guy says, or the gal says do this, and you do that. And that's a great way to get results, especially if you're listening to an expert. But it gets a little boring after a while, just doing what people say. I mean, most of us, that's kind of what we do 95, 24/7 sort of thing. So it's fun just to play around sometimes, and maybe you're not exactly sure what to do, so you just try something and see what happens. And yes, you could fail, but you could discover something new, and that's kind of what I'm doing this morning. So I came out to the garden with no particular idea of anything to do here today. Sometimes even when I'm shooting a video, when I shoot a video, I didn't wake up that morning with an idea. Sometimes, but sometimes not. So today I just came out here. I said, oh, what needs to get done in the garden? I was just working away on this particular section here. It's just on the edge of the garden. So the edge of the garden is always, the weeds are trying to come in from the forest and I'm pushing the weeds back. So once a year I have to give it a sort of good going over. And it's only 2 feet, a 2 feet wide bed. So I mean, I work at it, maybe do a 10-foot section and say the heck with that for a week. So that's what I was doing here, and as I was doing that, I noticed these onions growing here, a couple little shoots, and I remembered that I had planted some Egyptian walking onions last spring. I have a garden group at work, and a lady there brought some in and shared some of the, plants with people, and so I took some and I planted them here, and I forgot all about them. So I didn't really make much use of them. They seem to still be alive, and we'll see what happens next year. But what happens is they grow like a long onion. Within a season they grow an onion, and they make a sort of flower, and then the flower tips over, and then there's like a cluster of bulbils sort of thing, almost the same way a garlic does, and those will root. So here's, I can't even see the camera. I hope you can see my hand here. Do it from a different angle here so I can see. Yeah, so here's what the floret or the bulbil or whatever that is produced on the top of that thing. That's what it looks like. And you can see each one of these almost looks like a garlic clove, right? Or a little onion. It looks like an onion set. And so my understanding is that these things, if I did nothing at all, these would be growing next year so they can take a winter. So I thought, well, geez, I mean, the place where I planted them, they were sort of intermixed with sunchokes and blackberries. It wasn't a really good home. What if they give them a nice bed with lots of sun and good soil and the best conditions possible? So that's what I'm doing. Let me show you what I'm doing here. So here's a bed where I planted garlic a few weeks ago. And the idea for this bed was to have garlic and onions, and the rows of garlic are planted perpendicular to the length of the garden. And the idea is the garlic is supposed to come up next spring, and then I'll put some onion sets in here. So I thought, why don't I put these Egyptian walking onions here as well? Now it would be nice to plant them in between the rows of garlic, but I have no idea where I planted the garlic. I mean, the plan was for them to pop up out of the ground next spring, and then I'd know where they are, and I'd plant the onions in between those rows. I'll put a link to that video at the end of this. But I thought, why not just pop these things in around the edge? And I don't know if they'll survive the winter, and I don't know if they'll be okay, but it doesn't really matter to me. This is an experiment. I didn't really make much use of these onions anyway, so, I didn't pay anything for them. They were present, and I'm also relatively confident that this will work, because the bulbils that came off the plant, you can see they're they have little roots, but they haven't really rooted in the ground at all, right? So the plant is telling me I'm rooting, but I haven't rooted yet. The plant's telling me, buddy, if you're gonna move me, you better move me now, right? At least that's the way I sort of think when I don't really talk to my plants. I just sort of listen to them. So there's a bit of a root there, but it's not really, fanned out, feathered out. The fine root hairs aren't there. So the Egyptian walking onion is saying, I'm about to root, and if you want to move me now. And yes, they'll grow in clusters on their own if I just leave them. But I'm inclined to think that, if you break them up and give each one its own space, you probably get better results. So I'm planting them along the edge of this garden because I know there's nothing planted right against the logs. And also things tend to grow fairly well right against the logs. There's good moisture there and good, just the right conditions, right? So just pop one in here every 6 inches or so. Oh, I just dropped one there. I'll never be seen again. Gone. I'll put these over here. Just popping these guys in every 6 inches or so, and we'll see what happens. This is going to be an onion bed next year. Maybe these will, maybe you have about another week or so of warmth, perhaps. I don't know. It's like November 1st or November 2nd today or something like that. November is kind of iffy where I live. It's unreliable. It can get very cold, and we've had snowstorms in November, and then sometimes it can be actually quite pleasant and nice if you go for a hike in the woods in November. Sometimes it's hard to know what to bring you. You might start off the day wearing a toque like I am today, and by the end of the day you're down to a t-shirt. I've actually had that happen to me. So that's November. The days are all over the darn place. So just to give you a sense of the technique I'm using to plant these, all I'm doing is I got a bit of mulch here, maybe 2 inches of mulch on this garlic bed, and just sort of moving the mulch aside, making the tiniest little, maybe 1/2 inch indentation in the soil, and I'm not even really pushing these in, I'm just sort of resting them on the soil, because think about how the plant propagates its seeds, right? It just tips over, and the bulbils just sort of touch the ground, and these roots find their way in. So I don't think much, I'm basically just putting that rooting stuff in contact with the soil and letting nature take its course, because that's, they'll propagate themselves anyway. Here I'm just propagating them where I want them. I just shot this segment with the volume off, so I have to shoot it again, but luckily I found a couple more. Another experiment I'm doing here, just playing around, is I noticed that some of my asparagus plants, they've gone to seed. These little orange, tomato colored, basically tomato red colored seeds on the asparagus sprig. This is a plant that's maybe 3 or 4 years old. So I decided to, I already did it in this garden here, I'm just showing you what I did. Just take the seeds off and plant them the way asparagus plant asparagus, by just letting them, I'm just dropping them on the soil here. Right? These strawberries, in my opinion, they're still kind of growing, still rooting, still working. So I'm not going to mulch this bed yet, but maybe in 2 or 3 weeks. It's like the first or 2nd of November right now. In 2 or 3 weeks, I'll put a couple inches of hay or straw or even leaves over this strawberry bed. And really that's how most things in nature get seeded, right? The plant grows, it produces leaves, it makes a fruit. The fruit gets pollinated, and the fruit ripens, and then either something eats it and poops it out, or that seed just falls to the ground or gets carried off in the wind. It lands on the ground, and then the trees and everything else lose their leaves in the fall. The leaves land on top of the seeds. The snow and the rain and all of that in the winter pushes everything down to the ground, and just almost, through random forces, some of those seeds make it through the winter, and they're in just the right condition where they can germinate and they make a plant. So that was pretty easy. Took me I think 1 minute to plant a bed of asparagus. The seeds might not be viable. I don't know. I don't really know much about the pollination, the fertilization requirements of asparagus. And I don't care, because I spent a minute doing it. If I get asparagus here, great. If I don't, I learned something about asparagus. So still a win. Anyway, just having fun in the garden, trying to make use of these little Egyptian walking onion bulbs, and trying something out. And next April, May, we'll see what happens. That's the joy of gardening, just playing around like a kid sort of thing, and seeing what happens. And if it works out, you get the rewards, and if it doesn't work out, you learn something, so you still win. So I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. Don't forget to click the bell so you know when I've made a new video. I got, if you're in a binge watching mood, I got like 320 videos, so enjoy. Until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.